Hello, rookies. Hope you had a successful week last week. I went a disappointing 1-2 on free picks, but 10-5-1 overall for the best weekend of the season, and hopefully back on track this week 13 coming up. Jeff, how was your week?
Well, we were very close last week. I was 2-1 on free picks and 9-6-1 overall. So it was a good week. I was pretty happy with it.
Yeah, no, when you win those kind of numbers and that's up above 60%, you got to be happy with that. Hopefully we keep it up this week in week 13. Hey, my key takeaway from week 12 is that the teams that were supposed to win by and large won, with the exception of the Ravens and the Hawks. But the teams aren't really covering as much as one would think and expect by this year. So I'm not sure what that means. Other than they are winning. Jeff, what were your takeaways for week 12?
Mine was similar, and I've seen it in the point spreads this week. The spreads are getting a little smaller. We don't have the large point spreads on too many games, and the ones that were large last week, they're not covering. I think it's probably related to injuries, bringing everybody down to more of a level playing field. And just coaching is good, so they catch up with your trends as you go through the year. I think that's what happened with Philadelphia. People have kind of caught up to what they're doing, and they're keeping it closer now.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm not sure what it is, but I definitely agree that they're winning, but they're not winning by the margins that Vegas is calling them out to win by. And that's kind of where my losses came in. Had the win right, just didn't have the points right. Hey, two bye teams this week with the Cardinals and Panthers, and a couple of stats to throw out. First, ATS, the boys are 14-5 or 74% with a rest advantage, while Detroit is 9-5, 64%. Giants are 9-6, 60%. The Vikings are 8-7-1 or 53% since 2017. So they're coming in with extra rest, all four of those teams. Obviously, the Pats and the Bills are playing right now, and they're not coming in on rest advantage. In contrast, the over/under in that same period from 2017, and those same teams find some different numbers given the rest advantage. The Vikings are 11-5 to the over, 69%. Dallas is 11-8, 58% to the over. While Detroit is 5-9 to the over at 36%, and the G-Men are just 4-7 or 27% over after a rest advantage. Really interesting stats to throw out after that Thanksgiving game. Jeff, any thoughts coming up for week 13 that you're looking at, trends?
Well, it was interesting to look at that for Dallas, because I had the feeling that this game was going to go under with Dallas and Indy, and your numbers were a little bit over 50% of them covering the over, but still not substantially. So it did kind of help me make a determination on the over/under on that game.
Yeah, and obviously this is back to 2017, so history does not repeat. But it does in the NFL sometimes. And if you can pick it and let it form your opinion for the future, it can help you out a lot. Any other thoughts or trends you're looking at for week 13, Jeff?
No, pretty much I'm just staying away from the big point spreads at this point, because I have seen teams winning by fewer points. So it's made me a little leery. So I've reflected that in my picks this week.
Okay, good thought. All right, we kick off week 13 with our first interconference game. The Falcons host the Steelers and are home dogs by a point, essentially a pick 'em. The over/under is 42. The Steelers won last week on Monday night against the Colts, while the Falcons lost a close one to the Commanders. Not sure Najee Harris goes this week for the Steelers, and several defensive players were held out of practice today on Wednesday, or yesterday, so watch closely. The Atlanta team was beat up in the middle of the year, but are getting folks back. Atlanta is 8-2 ATS at home, and the Steelers are 3-3 on the road. So no real advantage either way. Both are 3-3 over/under at home and on the road. I'd like Atlanta here. Not sure why, but I'm staying away from this game. Jeff, any thoughts?
I do like Atlanta here. I mean, having Pitts out is certainly hurt their offense. But then having Harris out or at least limited for Pittsburgh is going to hurt them. And I think what it does to them is it puts a little more pressure on the rookie quarterback. And since he's not playing at home, he's on the road. I think he's going to struggle with that a little bit. So I like Atlanta in this game to cover. I mean, basically a pick 'em, cover the points.
Okay, you heard it here. Both of us like Atlanta. Are you going to bet it or are you staying away?
I am going to bet this one. Yeah, I
Okay.
feel pretty good about Atlanta.
Pretty confident there with Jeff with Atlanta. Hey, next up, the Bears host the Packers in the Who Cares Who Owns Who Bowl. The Packers are favored by 4.5 and the over-under is 43.5. Both of these teams have been bad ATS with the Bears 4-7-1 and the Packers 4-8. That's in the 30% and no bueno. And I should know because I bet both of them this year and lost. Chicago is 8-4 over-under at 67% and Green Bay is 6-6. So that kind of makes sense. However, with all the multiple injuries to quarterbacks, I'm not sure I want to trust the score, and 4.5 seems too much for me. It looks like Fields is going to go this week with the Bears, and Rodgers, contested that he, stated that he may not even be able to play, and he's open because the Packers are out of the playoff hunt to allow Jordan Love to play. So I would kind of lean toward the Bears maybe if Fields can go, but I think I'm going to stay away. Jeff, here any value?
I am staying away from this one. The quarterback issues for both teams just make it too iffy for me to bet. I don't even think we'll know for sure how they're going to, I don't know how effective Fields will be coming back. I don't know if Favre would play, Rodgers would play way back in the day for Green Bay.
Yeah, it goes way back.
Yeah, but so I'm staying away from this one. I just don't know about their quarterback situation.
Yeah, and I think you even got to keep in mind the Bears. Trevor Siemian was out on Wednesday too, so I'm not even sure he's going to be healthy if Fields, can go but goes down or something like that. You may have like Montgomery taking snaps in the Wildcat. So I'm staying away. But rookies, if you want to bet it, my thought is 4.5 seems too much. It's going to be close no matter what. Hey, in what I'm calling the Resurgent Bowl, with two teams surging late in the season, the Lions are hosting the Jags. Vegas has the Lions favored by 1, essentially another pick'em game, and the over-under set at 51.5. The Jags are coming off a nice win against the Ravens, and the Lions lost a close one to the Bills. Both these teams are fighting to go 8-8 despite only having 4 wins. And with a strong finish, each team could go 8-8, or even maybe one of them, if they ran the table, could go 9-7 if they went out. So I expect both teams to show up. So my first free pick of the day is free pick of the week is take under 51.5. I expect the defense to show up this week and show off this week. And I would go with the Lions on extra rest if I were going to pick a team. Jeff?
Yeah, I do think the under is a pretty good bet here because Detroit's defense has really picked up in the last 3 to 4 weeks. They're still a little underrated, I think, in their over-under point spread. So I like that. But I am going to go with just the Detroit winning the game. The last I looked today, it was just a straight pick 'em. And I think the way they've been playing tough, playing at home, Detroit is going to find a way to win this game. So taking Detroit.
All right, you heard it here. You got your first free pick from me, which is take the under, and that's a real shocker for me because you know how I hate going under on anything, but I got a feeling this thing's going under. Hey, the Vikings host the Jets and are favored by a field goal, and the over/under is 44.5. The Vikings got it done against the Pats and are coming out on extra rest. Meanwhile, the Jets easily got it done against the Bears at home with White under center. The Jets look great running the football. They had a couple rushers over 50. So that could continue as the Vikings have been exposed a little bit to the run. I like the Jets here with the points and would lean to the over. Jets, Jeff, any value here for you?
So this one, I didn't go a free pick, but it was close because both of my main indicators, how you perform against the spread and how your over-under is, against your opponents, everything points towards the Jets on this one. So it was tempting to do a free pick, but I'm definitely strongly leaning towards the Jets in this one. I think it should be a pick 'em at worst. So getting 3 points seems like a lot to me. And I definitely think the change in quarterback is stabilized the Jets. I know White's not as talented as Wilson, but he's very consistent, and I think that's all they needed. So I like the Jets in this one.
Okay, what do you think about the over under? Are you leaning toward the over or the under?
So my point predicted points was 44.5, which was
Okay.
right in line with Vegas. So yeah, I'm going to stay away on that one.
Right, so I'm going with the over here because of how the how the Vikings have performed with rest in the past. And look, it's not just that their offense gets better, it's that their defense tends to get worse in some of those games since in 2017. So I'm going over. I'm thinking this over, not a free pick, but pretty close. Hey, my game of the week in the toughest conference in the NFL, we have the perennial NFC showdown with the Giants hosting the Commanders. Both teams with 7 wins. The Commanders come in as road favorites, -1. And the over-under is set at 40.5. The Commanders won last week and are 3-0 straight up and ATS of the last 3. The Giants lost to Dallas but play on extra rest. The Giants are an impressive 8-3 ATS, while Washington is 7-4-1 ATS. And at home, the Giants are 2-0 ATS underdogs and 4-2 ATS overall, while Washington is 4-2 ATS on the road. So all this to say, this is a tough one to handicap. I like this one going under in the first half and would favor the Giants for the points. Jeff?
I totally agree. This is a difficult one to handicap, as my indicators are pretty evenly split between the two. 1 points to Washington, the other offsets almost exactly towards the Giants. So really my indicators wash, and so I just had to go off a feel. And I don't think the Giants are going to be able to run the ball against Washington's defensive line. And I think that puts too much pressure on Daniel Jones to do it all. And I think that will eventually lead to a mistake. So I'm going to go Washington here.
Okay, Washington, I'm going Giants. And I'm going under first half for the points. I feel like this is going to be a fight. It's going to be a dog fight, NFC fight. We've seen them before. 21-16 probably end up being the score, probably 10-7 half, maybe 13-6, something like that. I feel like there's going to be the touchdowns are a premium and the field goal kickers are going to get some work in. At least that's what I'm hoping.
I did forget to mention that I do have a pretty strong indicator.
Hey, our second conference game, the Titans travel to Philly for a new. You have a strong indicator on what, Jeff?
Going under. I definitely agreed with you on that one. Mine was like, I'm thinking 10 points too high on the over under. So I did agree with you on that one.
Yeah. All right. In our second interconference game, the Titans travel to Philly for a noon start. The Eagles are favored by 5.5, and the over under is 44.5. The Titans lost a close one to Cincinnati last week, and the Eagles won on Monday night against the Packers, so they're coming in on less rest. The Eagles are 2-1 on a short week, though, while Tennessee is 1-1 with more rest than their opponent. Tennessee is 3-9 over under, while Philly is 7-4 to the over. I like Philly and the under here, Jeff. Any value?
I'm going to differ with you on this pick as well. So when I looked at it, Tennessee's performed better against the spread of late. I know Philly had really high numbers early in the season, but Tennessee's beat the spread 4 of the last 5, and Philly's lost 3 of the last 5 and tied 1 of those. So I think the recent indicators for me are what's kind of pushing me to go with Tennessee plus the points here.
Yeah, I'm not really strong here with Philly, but I do like the under. When a team goes 3-9 on the under and the other team is just 7-4, I mean, that's not, I mean, 7-4, I mean, got to look who they played and won by a larger margin on the over. I see both these teams in the hunt, and I see defense as a premium. So I do like Philly to get it done, but I like the under. I do like the under better. Hey, next on the docket, the Ravens host the Broncos. The Ravens are favored by 8.5, and the over/under is set at 38 and a hook. Denver's 1-10 on the over/under, while the Ravens to the under. So I mean, to the over, they're 1 over and 10 under, which is just no offense. While the Ravens are 4-7, the Broncos have only given up 17 points a game and ranked third in total defense, while Baltimore has given up 20 a game. This game looks under by about 2 points. Baltimore has been putting up about 25 a game, and the Broncos have been putting up about 14 a game. Despite the trend, and I did it last week, I like the over. And with shopping is I think this thing could drop by 37 or maybe even 36 and a hook by game time. I also like the Broncos and feel like 8.5 is a bit too much, especially given the fact that Lamar Jackson looks like he's a go, but he may not be. Jeff, where are you looking here?
So I'm sure Vegas had a tough time with this one, trying to figure out these two teams because the recent games have been so bad against the spread. I know Denver's lost the last 3, Baltimore 2 of the last 3 against the spread. I think that Denver pitiful showing against Carolina probably made them over adjust a little bit. I don't think the 8.5 is, a good number. I think Denver keeps things much closer than that when I look back at all their historical games this year. So I'm going to go with Denver to keep it within the points this week.
Yeah, I am a little concerned about the noise coming out between defensive players and Russell Wilson that came out in the press this week. I am a little concerned that the locker room might be lost. And again, I go back to, I think we've talked about it before, but it's communication amongst, kind of almost different generations. Russell Wilson tends to be a younger Gen Xer and, or even maybe an older millennial. And I'm not sure where he stands because I don't know his actual age. But you got most of the league's Gen Z right now, under 25, and they just communicate different. So I'm not sure what's going on there in the locker room. So I'm a bit concerned, but I do like the over.
Yep.
All right, our last noon game, the Texans host the Browns. The Browns have Watson at quarterback this week and are favored by 7, and the over/under set at 47. I like the Browns with Watson coming back at quarterback despite the layoff and the touchdown, and would lean to the over. The Browns won last week without him against the Bucs, and the Texans are fading pretty fast. While the return could be emotional and I'm sure controversial, I like Cleveland to get it done in Houston. Jeff?
So I definitely think Cleveland is the better team, and Watson just makes them that much better. So basically everything I look at points me to Cleveland. My only concern is really the emotion of the game. I mean, they're going to have 10 of the alleged, victims of Watson's crimes in a suite there. There's going to be a lot of noise in the stands, so it might impact them a little bit. But so I'm not going to go strong on this one, but I do think Cleveland should cover based on talent.
Yeah, it's not a free pick for me. That's just kind of where I'm leaning. I'm kind of with you, Jeff. Seems a little too emotional to kind of even play it. I don't know, though. I mean, Texans have just not played well lately. So, but they may show up on this Sunday. So anyway, rookies, take a look. That's where we're looking. We're kind of it's a hesitant lean toward Cleveland, I would say, where we're at. Hey, our first 3 p.m. game, we have the defending Super Bowl champs, the LA Rams, hosting the Seahawks. The Seahawks are favored by 7.5, and the over/under is 41. The Rams will be without their standout defensive end, and Donald and Stafford. I'm not sure if he's practicing, playing. I'm not sure where they stand, and the Rams are just flat out banged up. That being said, the Hawks have an illness sweep in their locker room, and we saw what happened last week with Dallas. They didn't cover the spread. Despite the injuries, I like the Rams to cover at home to the fading Hawks 0-2 straight up in the last 2 games. Jeff?
I'm not sure what happened with Seattle the last couple of games. They've definitely taken a dip, and especially the run game. But I do think missing Aaron Donald is going to help them to revive that run game. So while it's not a strong indicator for me, I think I'm going to go Seattle minus the points in this one.
Yeah, I just can't give up the hook, Jeff. I feel like it's going to be a 7. I feel like we're looking at a Packers game. Like last week, when I made the call on the pack, they were 7.5, or they're 7, but the line actually moved to 7.5 by game time. And I feel like it's the same way here. So I'm going to stick with the Hawks, and we'll see who gets this one. Hey, our third interconference game, we have the Dolphins traveling west to face the 49ers. The 49ers are favored by 4, and the over-under is 46 and a hook. The 49ers dealing with some injuries, but have looked great since getting McCaffrey in the trade. The defense showed up last week, holding the Saints twice in the red zone and blanking them 13-0 for a big win for me. I think for you as well. That was one of my free picks. So I'm happy with the San Francisco defense. They're just playing great. The Dolphins won easily against the Texans last week. San Fran is 1-4 over under at home, while Miami is 4-1 over under on the road. The 49ers did lose Mitchell for 6 to 8 weeks, and McCaffrey didn't practice yesterday, but I guess he practiced today due to knee irritation. The Dolphins offense is 3rd in the league, while the 49ers defense is ranked 1 in scoring at 15 a game. And so for my second free pick, I like the under here, 46.5. Take the under 46.5, Dolphins and 49ers. I also like the Dolphins, and the points feel like they could get an outright win and at worst keep it to a field goal. Jeff, what are your thoughts?
So I can certainly understand the under here, because not only is the San Francisco defense really the best in the league right now, but they also know the coach's offensive system. So should give them a little help slowing them down. They've been a little lethargic the last week and a half on offense. They had the big burst right after McCaffrey was traded, but they've come back down a little bit. I do think they bounce back here. I'm going to go San Francisco to cover the 4 points.
Okay. So we got a little difference of opinion, but agree on the over under, and I am going under for my second free pick. That's where I think the money's at. And so if you're going to bet it, I would definitely bet the under. Again, we're getting in December timeframe, rookies, and defenses start to show up and show off, as I like to say, in December as we get ready for the playoffs. Next up, we have a rematch of last year's AFC Championship game with the Bengals hosting the Chiefs. The Chiefs come in as road favorites at 2.5, and the over-under is 52 and a hook. Mixon is coming off a concussion protocol, and Chase remains iffy for the Bengals, although I heard today he is a go. The Chiefs are also dealing with some injuries to the receiving core. The over-under seems a bit excessive here for this late in the season. The Chiefs are 4-6, while Cincinnati is 4-6-1 over-under, and both teams are fighting for division and playoff spots, which tells me is, again, kind of my theme for this week is defense is showing up and showing out. And so I'm looking at the under here. The Chiefs are 5-0 straight up over the last 5, while the Bengals are 3-0. The Bengals are in more of a fight for the division with the Ravens, and the Chiefs. They haven't locked up their division, but they're definitely they're the lead sled dog. And the Chiefs are certainly thinking about last year's AFC Championship game. So I kind of like KC on the road. Jeff, where are you looking?
So this Vegas, I think pretty well nailed the line on this one. It's come down the last I checked to 2, and that was about what I had predicted on my over-under. So that would normally lead me to stay away from this game. But Mahomes in November and December has won his last 16 or 17 now. So it's been over 2 years since he's lost in the month of November or December. He is just outstanding at this time of year, and Cincinnati is a little banged up. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take Kansas City in this one as a free pick.
Okay, you heard it here. Free pick from KC, and I like him as well. And I'm thinking under, despite all the offense on both of these teams. I think I got the under right when the Bills and Chiefs met, and I think the number was about the same. They ended up scoring about mid-40s. Hey, next up, the Raiders host the Chargers. The Chargers are favored by 1.5. Again, essentially a pick 'em game, and the over-under set at 50 and a hook. Las Vegas won last week, putting up 40 on the Hawks and are 2-0 straight up, while the Chargers won a close one over Arizona, but are 1-3 in the last three, losing 2 to the Chiefs and the 49ers. The Chargers look to continue to be without Williams. I'm not sure if he's going to be a go. Keenan Allen is back, but both teams are relatively healthy for the game. I'm staying away from this game, but would lean toward Los Angeles. Jeff?
So I'm probably also going to stay away from this game. I've got it within a half a point of what Vegas says it should be. And I've got like one of my lowest strength of bets, but I just cannot figure out why the Chargers have not been more consistent. They've got so much talent, even with the injuries they've gone through, and a great quarterback. I mean, it just leads me to believe they need a coaching change or something, because they should be doing much better than they have been. So if I were going to go any direction, I might go the Raiders in this one, but I'm just going to stay away.
All right, you heard it here. You got us staying away from this one. So dip your toe in at your risk. Hey, our Sunday night game, the Cowboys host the Colts. Man, it's unfortunate. I don't like betting on the boys because, man, they're playing well. Although they didn't cover last week, and I did bet on them. That was one of my losses. The boys are favored by 10.5, and the over/under is set at 44.5. Again, the Cowboys won last week against the Giants, and the Colts lost on Monday night to the Steelers. Really, I was going for the Colts that game, and they lost. Very disappointing. 10-5 is a lot of points, but well-deserved with their defense. I might even take a prop bet against the Colts quarterback on yards, whoever he is. Feels like the Colts will need to run the ball against the Cowboys as the Cowboys look to shut down their passing offense. Jeff, any thoughts here?
I find a couple of things interesting in this game. One, the spread for Dallas over Indy is basically twice what Vegas put the spread of Philadelphia over Indy. So that does interest me when you look at the Philadelphia-Dallas comparisons. The other thing, absolutely, they're going to have to run this ball because Indy's offensive line has not been good this year. They don't have weapons at the receivers, so Dallas will just destroy them with their pass rush if they get behind. So it's going to have to be a close game kept there by running the ball, or else Indy is in a lot of trouble. But they do have a good defense. I do think they can keep it close. I was hesitant to go at 11.5, but the line is actually dropped to 10. So it's gone down a 1.5 in the last day and a half, which makes me wonder why we've gotten so much movement towards Indy, but that makes me feel a little better about going with the Cowboys at this point.
Okay, yeah, I just got to, I'll throw out another prop bet. If there's over 2 interceptions, I'm thinking this pass rush is, look, I'm not saying that older quarterbacks are bad quarterbacks. They're going to be very effective in the league. But I will say this, they tend to hold on to the ball a little bit and let things develop because that's the way it used to be. And that's not the way you got to play against the Cowboys defense. You got to get the ball out very quickly. Now, if their offense can run the ball somewhat effectively against Parsons and they can throw the quick hitters, maybe they can prevent the turnovers. But I could easily see the Cowboys getting 3 picks or 3 turnovers in this game. So if there's a prop bet out there, you may want to take a look at it. Okay. Our Monday night matchup, we have the Bucs hosting the Saints. The Bucs are home favorites at 3.5, and the over/under is 40.5. The Saints have owned Tom Brady since becoming a Buc, winning 4-1. The Bucs have struggled, losing their last week to the Cleveland, are in a fight for the division and playoff berth because with the strength of the East, no other team will come out of the NFC South. So if you don't win it, you're not moving on. I like the Bucs at home and would lean toward the under. For my third free pick, take the Bucs minus 3.5 versus the Saints. If you can get it at 3, take it at 3. Jeff, what are your thoughts?
I am also making this one a free pick. Now, if it were in New Orleans not only owns him, but they just dominate him there. But since it's in Tampa, and I do think Tampa had more on the line, and they're starting to get a few people healthy, then I like Tampa to come in and cover this one to keep Tom Brady's playoff chances alive.
All right, you got two of us betting on the Bucks for a free pick. Jeff, what are your thoughts as we pass through week 13? What are you looking at right now?
Well, I did make a point, other than starting to lean towards the Cowboys, any of the larger point spreads, I'm definitely taking the underdog at this point, because I think defenses are adjusting, plus injuries are leveling the playing field. So that's one thing I'm looking for. The other thing I'm watching is some of these flu bugs. We've got it going through, a couple more teams this week. We had it Dallas last week. So we just have to keep that in mind, because not only does it possibly mean people are out, but even when they come back and play, they're not 100%. More winded and just not up to full speed. So you got to keep an eye on that one.
Yeah, did you think that had an effect on the Cowboys? I mean, they played pretty effectively, and but they could have closed out the game, and they didn't, and allowed the Giants to come back and get that touchdown.
Yeah, I think it did two things. One, it was the short week. So when you are missing practice and you don't even have much time to study on the side, it probably hurt that they were missing on a short week. But yeah, I also think it impacted their energy level on the field.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm taking the Rams with 7.5 against the Hawks, just because I think, to your point, I don't think they're going to be able to put the prep in. So we'll see. We'll see if that has an impact. And I definitely think that's a wise move, or a wise strategy to kind of take a look at as illnesses are running through. And you really probably got to go to the local paper to get that. I'm not sure you're going to get it in the national media. Hey, rookies, I'm just looking this week at, kind of what we talked about, the teams coming off extra rest and kind of where their percentages are. And I'm kind of I'm leaning that way this week. Last week, it was the offensive linemen, specific the centers, with the exception of Steelers. That played out pretty well for me. So I'm hoping this week it plays out pretty well as well. Jeff, any last thoughts before we click off?
Nope. I think we're just looking for another good week to get our year-to-date percentages up there in a pretty safe place.
Yep, absolutely. All right, rookies. Hey, have a good week. Good luck. And we'll see you next week. Thanks.